The war that the world feared for decades has finally begun. As of this morning, Israel and Iran are at war, and nothing will be the same after this. No more threats, no more warnings. It's real now, and the first shots have already been fired. At 3 a.m. local time in Tehran, something terrible lit up the skies. People woke to the sound of sirens, explosions, and the distant roar of fighter jets. Then the internet slowed, cell networks dropped, and cities across Iran went dark. For a few minutes, no one knew what was happening, but they could feel it in their bones. This wasn't a drill. Within an hour, videos started flooding, social media shaky. Grainy clips showing huge fires, loud bangs, and columns of smoke rising from military bases. Most of them couldn't be confirmed, but they didn't need to be. The silence from officials spoke louder than any statement. And then came the confirmation. Israel had launched a massive strike across Iran. To some, it was shocking. To others, it felt inevitable. For years, tension between these two countries has been building like pressure in a sealed room. Every few months, something small would set off alarms. A bomb blast, a cyber attack, a threat from a general or a minister. But it always stopped short of war. Until now. This is a story that stretches back decades. Israel has always seen Iran's nuclear program as an open threat. Iran, on the other hand, has never forgiven Israel for its actions in the region. From its role in Syria to its close ties with the United States, they fought each other in secret, in the shadows of other countries. Through proxy groups, digital attacks, and assassinations, Iranian scientists were killed. Israeli intelligence operations made headlines. The world watched and waited. And now, it's no longer in the shadows. No one can say for sure what lit the final match. Some say Israel hit an Iranian nuclear site with a drone just days ago. Others say secret talks between Iran and the US collapsed behind closed doors, and one side decided it had waited long enough. Maybe it was both. Or maybe we'll never know. But here's what matters. The war has started. This isn't just another border skirmish. There are nuclear weapons on the table. Iran is rumored to be closer than ever to building a bomb. Israel believes it can't afford to wait anymore. The United States is watching. So is Russia. So is the rest of the world. Nobody knows how far this will go, or how many lives it will cost. What we do know is this: the Middle East has reached a boiling point. This isn't just a fight between two countries, it's something much bigger, and the fire has already started, just before dawn. While most of the world slept, Israel made its move. The mission had a name: Operation Rising Lion. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't a message. It was a strike, meant to do one thing: cripple Iran before it could strike back. At exactly 3 a.m. local time in Tehran, explosions lit up the sky over Natanz, one of Iran's most closely guarded nuclear sites. For years, the world suspected that Natanz was where Iran was getting closer and closer to building a nuclear bomb. Now, it was burning. But Natanz wasn't the only target. Within 90 minutes, over 300 different sites had been hit. Israeli jets struck deep inside Iranian territory, hitting missile storage facilities, radar systems, communication posts, and military bases across Tehran. Fire and smoke poured into the sky. Power in some neighborhoods went out almost instantly. Israel wasn't just targeting weapons. It was going after Iran's ability to fight back. Iran's first problem was silence. There was no quick response, no national address, no statement from its top military generals. That's because many of them were already dead. Israel had gone for the head first. Hussein Salami, the leader of Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard, was confirmed killed in one of the early strikes. So was Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's chief of military staff. Even Ali Shamkhani, one of the key voices behind Iran's nuclear talks with the West, was gone. This wasn't just a missile campaign. This was decapitation. Iran's ability to respond was delayed because its command chain had been shattered. Confusion spread across military units. Some generals tried to take charge. Others waited for orders that would never come. Still, Iran managed to fight back, at least a little. Within hours, several kamikaze drones were launched toward Israel. These are cheap, remote-controlled aircraft, loaded with explosives. They don't return. They just fly into a target and explode. Israel's Iron Dome defense system shot most of them down before they reached major cities, but not all. In one southern Israeli town, a drone made it through and hit a government building. No lives were lost. But the message was clear. Iran wasn't done. Back in Iran, chaos was spreading. Israeli intelligence operatives, likely from Mossad, had been on the ground for weeks, maybe months. They carried out acts of sabotage. Inside cities, power grids were taken down, internet service crashed, even train systems stopped running. Iran's own people were cut off from the world and from each other. And then came the missiles. Iran fired a series of medium-range rockets aimed at Israeli military bases. Most were intercepted, but a few landed. One Israeli Air Force base took damage, another base's communication tower was destroyed. No one knew if this was just the start of a much bigger counterattack, or the best Iran could do with its command structure in ruins. Meanwhile, something strange was happening in Israel. While the country braced for more attacks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was seen on vacation with his family. Photos surfaced of him smiling, standing at a beach resort, and even attending his son's wedding. Was this all part of a plan to make Iran drop its guard? Or was it a signal to the world that Israel had everything under control? Iran didn't take it lightly. In fiery statements broadcast on state television, Iranian officials promised full-scale retaliation. One anchor even called it the start of the Great Punishment, but words were all they had for now. Their military leaders were dead or missing. Their systems were broken. Their capital was still under fire. As the dust settled temporarily, attention shifted to the rest of the region. Hezbollah, Iran's close ally in Lebanon, began to move its forces near the Israeli border. Rockets were fired, but not in large numbers. In Iraq and Syria, Iranian-backed militias started appearing more often around U.S. bases and Israeli-linked sites. No major clashes yet, but the warning signs were there. The whole region was holding its breath. The world, meanwhile, didn't know what to say. The United Nations called for an emergency session and came up with no solution. The U.S. stayed quiet. The White House wouldn't confirm if they knew the attack was coming. Russia and China told Israel to show restraint, but their words carried little weight. Everyone was watching, but no one was doing much. Inside Iran, the government scrambled to rebuild what it could. A new military chief was appointed. Replacement officers were flown into Tehran from the countryside. The country declared a state of emergency. Hospitals were overflowing with the wounded, and people were being turned away. Iran had been caught off guard, but it wasn't out. Israel, meanwhile, closed its airspace and put every major hospital on alert. Shelters were opened. School was cancelled nationwide. Military units were deployed to protect key infrastructure and government buildings. The streets in cities like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem were empty by nightfall. Everyone expected more attacks. No one knew when. And that's where things stood in those early days. Two countries standing on the edge, each waiting for the other to make the next move. Israel had landed the first blow, and it had been massive. But Iran had every reason, every motive, to strike back hard. The scary part: nobody knew how far either side was willing to go. The war wasn't over. It hadn't even really started. The first few days of war felt like a one-sided blow. Israel had hit hard, fast, and with incredible accuracy. Iran looked wounded, shocked, even silent. But that silence didn't last. It couldn't, because when a country takes a hit that deep, it eventually hits back. And then it did. Iran struck. Not with a small counterattack, not with a warning, but with everything it had prepared for years. A full-scale retaliation, missiles, drones, and more, all launched in one massive wave. Across southern Israel, sirens screamed louder than ever before. Families rushed to shelters. In cities like Beersheba and Ashkelon, people watched the sky light up with flashes, some from missiles, others from the Iron Dome interceptors trying to knock them out. But there were too many. The Iron Dome system, built to stop incoming rockets, worked as best as it could. It shot down dozens, maybe hundreds. But even the best defense system has a limit. It can't shoot forever. It can't be everywhere. Some missiles slipped through. One hit a military transport hub in the Negev. Another slammed into an apartment building in Ashkelon, killing 7 people, including 2 children. For the first time in the war, Israel felt real pain at home. Then things got worse. Whispers started coming from Israel's own intelligence circles. Leaked reports, never officially confirmed, claimed that Iran had been just days away from building its first real nuclear bomb. Not a test, a weapon. According to the sources, Iran already had enough enriched uranium. The only thing left was putting it together and finding a way to deliver it. And that's when things truly began to spiral. Iran didn't deny the rumors. Instead, its top surviving military leader gave a short statement on state TV. No promises, no clear threats. Just one sentence. We know where your nuclear sites are too. The message was clear. If you hit us, we'll hit back, not just with rockets, but with something worse. That sentence echoed far outside the Middle East. In Washington, alarms were raised. American military bases in the Persian Gulf were put on alert. Aircraft carriers began shifting positions. Fighter jets were moved. The U.S. had tried to stay out of it until now, but it wasn't going to be easy anymore. President Trump was under pressure from both sides. His advisors were split. Some pushed him to send in reinforcements to help Israel. Others warned that jumping in now would trigger a regional war, or worse, nuclear retaliation. Then a phone call leaked. A private one between Trump and Netanyahu. In that call, Netanyahu said, "We're already in too deep." No one knew what else was said, but that one sentence said enough. While leaders talked behind closed doors, the battlefield got more crowded. Hezbollah, Iran's close ally in Lebanon, started firing rockets into northern Israel. Not just a few, enough to cause evacuations. In towns near the border, at the same time, Houthi drones were spotted heading toward Israel from Yemen, intercepted by U.S. Navy ships. And in Syria, the chaos reignited. Iranian-backed fighters attacked Israeli posts near the Golan Heights. It felt like the whole region was catching fire. And just when people thought Israel might pull back, it didn't. Instead, reports began to pour in. Israel had launched a second wave of strikes. Not just on the surface, but deep underground. Special bunker-buster bombs were dropped on sites believed to be hidden Iranian weapons storage and command centers. Some claimed Israel had hit facilities linked to chemical weapons development. Others believed they were aimed at secret nuclear labs. One strike hit Iran's parliament building directly. Lawmakers were inside. No one knows if it was a mistake or a message. Tehran exploded into chaos. People ran through the streets, unsure if the war was coming to them next. Martial law was declared. Tanks rolled through intersections. Soldiers with rifles stood on every major corner. In the skies above, anti-aircraft fire lit up the night like fireworks. Only there was nothing to celebrate. In the middle of all this, the world economy cracked. Oil prices shot up within hours. Gas stations in Europe and Asia reported shortages. Stock markets dropped sharply. Airlines canceled flights across the Middle East. Some didn't even wait for government orders. They just grounded their planes. Insurance companies froze travel coverage for the region. In a matter of days, the war had reached far beyond just missiles and bombs. But one moment stood out. A moment that could have changed everything. An Israeli F-35 fighter jet was tracked on radar, flying toward one of Iran's nuclear reactors. The pilot didn't speak to the media, but air traffic logs showed something strange. The plane reached within striking distance, then turned around. It didn't drop anything. It didn't fire. It just left. That moment was short, but heavy. Was it a warning? A test? Or did someone, somewhere, decide that it had already gone too far? No one knew. Still, the message hung in the air. The war wasn't over. But it had crossed into something much darker. Something harder to control. It wasn't about just hitting back anymore. It was about survival, fear, and the growing chance that the next strike could change the world forever. Asterisk for now, the shooting has mostly stopped, but no one is celebrating. No one is claiming victory. What we have is a kind of silence, not peace, just a pause. After nearly a week of constant airstrikes, drone attacks, and back-and-forth retaliation, Israel and Iran have both pulled back. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Both sides are bruised, exhausted, and waiting for what comes next. In the background, quiet talks began. Not in public, and not between presidents. Instead, messages passed between low officials, possibly in neutral places like Oman or Turkey. A few countries tried to help mediate, hoping to calm things before it spiraled again. So far, those talks haven't stopped the war, but they've slowed it down. Israel hasn't launched new strikes in the past 48 hours. Iran hasn't fired more missiles. But troops haven't moved. Borders are still locked down. Everyone's still watching. Inside Iran, the top military ranks are being reshuffled. Too many leaders are gone. New generals are stepping in, and the government is trying to rebuild some kind of order. But it's a mess. Some cities still have no power. Hospitals are stretched to the breaking point. Shelters are overflowing. Families who lost their homes are sleeping in mosques or abandoned schools. The numbers are hard to believe. Dozens of key military sites were destroyed. At least 2 major nuclear facilities were damaged beyond repair. In Israel, Drone strikes and missile hits killed civilians, some of them children. Schools were shut, businesses closed, airports were silent. Everyone knows someone who was hit, a cousin, a neighbor, a friend. And through all of this, the political ground has shifted. In Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu is being praised by many at home. Supporters call him decisive and strong. But outside of Israel, there's a different view. Critics say he pushed too hard, too fast, and may have dragged the entire region into chaos. In Iran, the leadership is walking a thin line. People are angry. Some blame the West. Others blame their own government for letting it happen. There are protests in small cities, not massive yet, but louder than before. Some hardliners are demanding revenge. Others are calling for new leadership. The United States is under fire too. Washington is being accused of standing by while the war exploded. For years, the US played the role of middleman, trying to stop Israel from attacking and pushing Iran to negotiate. But now, all of that is gone. The nuclear talks are finished. No more meetings. No more deals. Whatever trust once existed between these nations, it's over. While the US hesitates, other powers are moving in. Russia and China are holding quiet talks with both sides, trying to build influence, while the West looks weak. It's not just a fight between Israel and Iran anymore. It's a scramble to control what's left of the region's future. And yet, even with all the blood, all the loss, nothing feels settled. Israel says it's not done. Unfinished business, one official called it. Iran is digging deep, building underground bases and hiding missile launchers in new locations. They're not rebuilding just to defend. They're getting ready for what's next. Intelligence experts say this isn't the end of a war, just the end of the beginning. People are still scared. Some have left their homes. Others are stocking up on supplies, just in case. The war left its mark, not just on buildings or runways, but on everyone's mind. A feeling that something important has broken, that something big has changed. And maybe it has, because once you hit this level of destruction, when cities burn, when leaders die, when everything you thought had limits suddenly doesn't, there's no going back. You can rebuild the buildings, you can repair the power lines, but you can't undo what was done. You can't unsee what was seen. Some will call this a victory. Some will call it a warning. History may call it the war no one stopped. But one thing's for sure, it won't be the last.